Welcome to the 2020 Institute for CTE Educators. The live broadcast of our general session will begin in 5 minutes. In order to receive credit for attending this session, remember to listen for the keyword and complete the session survey. It's almost showtime. The session will begin in 1 minute. We recommend entering full screen mode and adjusting your volume now. Good morning, Tennessee CTE, and welcome to the 2020 Institute for CTE Educators, hosted by the Tennessee Department of Education. Over 2,000 CTE educators, administrators, counselors, and industry partners from across the great state of Tennessee will be tuning in live to this broadcast, and we thank you for joining us virtually this year. The next few days will be full of instructional resources, networking opportunities, and professional growth, all to support strengthening career and technical education for students in Tennessee. This is Tennessee CTE. To officially kick off this year's Institute for CTE Educators, we have a special virtual message from Tennessee's Commissioner of Education, Penny Schwinn, and Governor Bill Lee.
Welcome to the 2020 Institute for CTE Educators. Career and technical education is something that I think you all know is very near and dear to my heart, and it has to remain a priority here in the state of Tennessee. You, as CTE instructors, have the incredible responsibility and opportunity of providing students with skills and credentials that are important for them as they enter into the job arena in the years ahead. You and you alone will equip them for that future, and that's why this is so important in this state. You know, CTE is not just an educational priority, it's an economic one. A skilled workforce is important for Tennessee to attract companies. It's important for the companies that exist already here in this state to have the tools they need, most importantly, the skilled workforce they need to keep our economy going. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for being a part of this training institute, a very important part of what we're doing in Tennessee.
And this week we had a record number of registrations. Over 2,000 folks are signed up to have a week of learning, to building your own professional repertoires of resources and supports that are available for you, and most importantly for your students going into next year. We know that this year looks a lot different, and we'll have to be flexible and work together as a state and as a community. But I know, and we know, that you are set up to be successful in this work, that there is no one better to do it, and that you will always, always, always have that strong commitment to students in this mission-critical program. Thank you for your work, and have a great week.
Whether you're streaming from your computer, tablet, or mobile device, we know one thing is clear: CTE is essential. We have seen the importance of career and technical education and how it impacts students and our communities. Throughout this session, we'll be highlighting different stories from around the state to share knowledge and recognize the successes within Tennessee CTE. We'll start by showcasing how districts are enhancing CTE through apprenticeships.
Out in the industry, there is such a shortage of skilled labor. And with this program being here, we're doing our small part of helping with the skilled labor.
My career plans before I heard about this program was to join the military and see what I did from there, because I really didn't know what I was going to do. I had no clue.
If everybody would like, get one of these dark shields.
It's quite an experience, just the amount of classes that we have and the opportunities that come into the school are really just great for all the students.
It's one of my favorite classes. It's pretty much what I love to do.
Career and technical education is a great opportunity for students to explore and really get the opportunity to decide if a path is right for them. When I first started in July of 2018, I heard that there was a company coming to the area and their need was for welding and welding employees. Concerned me because we did not have a welding program of study. So immediately we began talking. So in just a little over a year, we went from an idea, a vision, to a fully functioning welding program in about 18 months, which led to a welding apprenticeship. It really is a pleasure to honor not only the students today, but our partner, Oshkosh, our post-secondary partner, TCAP.
They will be welding on the products that go on this vehicle. We recognize the potential and the value in recruiting these students to come and work for Oshkosh in hopes that they enjoy the trade and that it'll also pay off for us in retaining them as full-time employees.
I think it's a great opportunity for me.
Signing today means that I officially got the internship and I'm taking a step further into my future.
I want to become a welder and I want to get better. I want to be certified in welding at TCAT and I want to become an underwater welder.
The good news is we do have several work-based learning opportunities, and just expanding it to those that have never done that before is a goal. But more and more industry business partners are seeing the value of allowing 16 to 17-year-olds to come work and learn those skilled trades.
This is where it begins. The workforce begins is here at the high school level.
In CTE, our commitment to students starts in the classroom. It's there that students begin to identify future career paths and are connected to educational opportunities. Our next highlight introduces architecture and engineering design instructor at Carter County Schools, Daniel Arnett.
My name is Daniel Arnett. I teach at Hampton High School and I teach architecture and engineering design. I became a teacher to change lives and to be an influence on other students like my agriculture teacher was, and to show students there's life beyond the four walls that we have enclosed in our schools. Where we live, I tell them it's life beyond the double bridges. CTE is important to be taught in Tennessee because we teach not only hard skills, but we also teach soft skills. It allows students to show their creativity, allows them to showcase their talents, and it creates a bond among team members that lasts a lifetime. There is no typical day in CTE. I have several people that come in throughout the work week asking us to come in and complete specific drawings or specific projects. We have administrators, we have county commissioners, emergency management directors. They all come in and ask us if we can help them out. We usually do. And then in the days that are teachable, we usually start out doing some hand drawings or some computer-aided drawings, and then we start working on our projects. Students get to see a real-world aspect in our CTE because we do so many things for our community, saving taxpayers' money, saving our commissioners the headache of having to go through and try to come up with different firms, such as redesigning an EMS fire station. We do house plans. Because of CTE, our students are learning real-world experience, and it's also helping the community at the same time. Both present and past students that come back to me and say thank you. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for guiding me. That's what excites me about teaching. I advocate for CTE nonstop. It's my everyday life. And one thing that I would like for all counselors to know is that we utilize all academic classes in our fields of study. We use math, we use science, we use English. We have intelligent students, and those students are making a difference in the lives of people today.
Expanding on classroom instruction, students are able to apply their knowledge hands-on and learn professional skills through their involvement in career and technical student organizations. To learn more about how students in CTSOs are being prepared for their careers, we talked with Tennessee's CTSO student leaders.
My name is Casey Bohr Jr. I'm here with the Tennessee State FFA Association, and I'm currently serving as the Middle Tennessee State Vice President.
My name is Olivia Bradley, and I am the Tennessee FCCLA State President.
I'm Chance Hale, and I'm a part of the Future Business Leaders of America, and I'm the State President for Tennessee FBLA.
I'm Austin Kretsch, and I'm the Tennessee DECA State President.
I'm Jonna Durham. I'm a State Officer for Skills. I'm the reporter.
My name is Justina Saber, and I'm currently serving as a 2020 President-elect for Tennessee host of Future Health Professionals.
I'm Michaela Hickman, and I'm currently the State Treasurer for FFA.
My entire life, I've been surrounded by entrepreneurs. My grandfather and my father both have their own construction companies. And so as soon as I got to high school, I had this sense of achievement of seeing a job well done. And I knew that I wanted to be just like my father when I grew up. And so I decided to join FBLA because I wanted to have that sense of accomplishment again.
When I joined FCCLA, I was a very shy and timid person. And through becoming a state officer, I've learned how to properly advocate, and I've really broken out of my shell, and I've been able to do a lot of things that I never thought that I could while being a state officer.
I have been prepared to be a leader because of the opportunities that they give us with working on our own and being self-motivated. So that really helps me in school and out of school coming from skills.
An example of my leadership would actually be in this past March where we've had a lot of tornadoes and storm damage come through the Middle Tennessee area that hit a very large chunk of my hometown in Mount Juliet. It seemed like it changed our entire town forever. As an organization, we were able to come together and to help every single person in need and pick up everything that we needed to, whether it be a handful of trash or pick up somebody who just had their house torn down.
My local chapter advisor has been instrumental to my success in FBLA. She was very positive, very optimistic, and she, came and talked to me, and as well as my other friends, and just inspired me to be a better person and to dream big. And so she was a really big motivator into joining FBLA.
My first host experience was a few years ago at State Leadership Conference, and whenever I walked in, I was a bit overwhelmed. I was so excited, of course, but I was a bit overwhelmed with all the opportunities that was offered to me at such a young age. But I remember walking in and then seeing all these workshops and all these sessions and how the officers are always there to help you no matter what. And then that's what made me strive to be an officer today, because I saw that they were willing to help throughout anything that you needed, and they were always there to support you. I found my voice at that State Leadership Conference, and I found what my passion was, and it gave me an insight on what I want to do in the future. So that was my first experience, and I would definitely say it was a good one because it definitely did impact me.
I advocate for FCCLA through staying in contact with my community officials, and my team and I definitely use social media because social media is so relevant in today's time. So we use that currently since we can't see our members in person, so that's a huge way to advocate. And we're working on Zoom calls and workshops that are virtual right now, so that's how we do most of our advocating during this time.
Career and technical student organizations means to me learning life skills. I would not be where I am today. I would not be able to speak to y'all. I wouldn't be able to speak to students. I wouldn't have relationships. I wouldn't know how to manage money or manage time or be organized. They mean so much to us students because not only are they just pathways that they put us on, they're where we make our closest friends. They're where we decide what we want to do with our lives. And I'm extremely pleased with our organizations, whether it be in FFA or HOSA or any other place. Our leaders, our advisors, and our teachers definitely help us grow into really good individuals with great characters.
Tennessee DECA is going to go to newer levels, higher heights, and our members are going to be ready to go next level.
Not only does CTE make a lifelong impact on students, it strengthens the community and supports the economy. Advocating for CTE beyond the classroom walls ensures that we can continue to prepare students to achieve success within their community. Let's listen again to our student voices as they share what they hope their communities and educational leaders know about CTE.
I want the community to know that we are more than just cooking and cleaning and sewing, but we are building the future leaders of tomorrow.
I'd say one thing that I'd like my community to know about my CTSO would be that it is very much there and alive, and it isn't exactly what you always think it is. It's not just a bunch of kids who live on a farm, and it is something that is available for everyone, is encouraged for everyone to help build the leaders of tomorrow. Every single person in the classroom, no matter your background, can be a part of FFA.
I want other teachers to know that DECA is important and rewarding. It's not just some other club, it's an organization that prepares you for future life so you can be college ready, career ready, and life ready.
One thing I want the community to know about Skills USA is how important it is to us, not only to the organization itself, but it's very important to the students. Even if you aren't an officer, it is so important. It gives someone something to latch onto, to show what they really excel in, especially if they aren't sportsy or if they aren't creative and can't do theater club. Skills gives them something that they can choose what they're good at and they can excel and show that they aren't just there, that they have something to offer.
I want my principal to know is that having your students in a CTSO not only brings recognition to the student and helps boost their confidence, it also brings recognition to the school not only on a state level but also on a national level.
I want the board members to know that CTSOs and CTEs are important and to continue their funding because in CTSOs, it's a big family as CTSOs all together. And it's just, many of our members bring back so much to the community. They start up businesses, they go into health, and we need those in the community. So I want them to know that CTSOs are very important to the community.
What I want my principals at my school to know about my CTSO and Skills is how important it is to us and how good it makes the school look once you have students actually participating in school. Some students don't find anything that they can actually latch onto and grow with, but Skills has so many different opportunities and pathways that you can join and better yourself in. It's not only just for a specific pathway, it's for everybody. So don't look at it as a competition, look at it as teamwork.
Can I add one more thing that I just need to get it out there? Every single one of them has something to offer. COSA is a future health professionals. So right in front of me, it could be your future doctor, your future nurse, and the frontline workers, our alumni. Some of them are frontline workers as well. And then also you have someone that could find a cure for cancer. So that's just so amazing that you're allowing your students this opportunity to be in an organization like this or in any of the 7 organizations because each has something unique, and so we are the future. But yeah, I just wanted to add that.
This morning's guest speaker has been sharing the importance of a promise with people around the world. Alex Sheen is the founder of Because I Said I Would, a social movement and nonprofit dedicated to the betterment of humanity through promises made and kept. He is someone who truly honors commitment. Alex once walked over 240 miles across the entire state of Ohio in 10 days to fulfill a promise. Alex has impacted millions of people with the Because I Said I Would message through the viral nature of social media. His work has been featured on ABC World News with Diane Sawyer, CNN, The Los Angeles Times, The Today Show, and many others. Please help me welcome Alex Sheen.
Hello, everyone in Tennessee. Educators, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm reporting here out of Cleveland, Ohio. But before I get started, right off the rip, there's something I've got to say. I am in fact wearing pants. I am wearing pants in this speech. I've got even shoes on for some reason. That doesn't make sense, but you're special. And I have to bring that level of professionalism to this moment that we're going to share together. Right now, the world is a crazy place, and I think a lot of us are thinking about health, of course. And when I think of health care, that thought, I think of one person. I think of my father. This is a picture of my dad. He is about the same age in that picture as I am right now, something like that. He was a pharmacist for 25 years in the Ohio health system. And right now we look at healthcare professionals and their commitment to serving their community in a different light than I did when I was a kid. You know, I just thought my dad was an average guy. I mean, I even remember when I was a little kid, a real little kid, I remember looking up at my dad and being like, man, Dad, you are not good looking. And that's a terrible thought because I would grow up to look exactly like him which is horrific news for me. But it's true. My father was average looking. He was average a lot of things. We're not talking about some kind of war hero. He didn't write books. He didn't run marathons. I don't think many people would have noticed him. Except for maybe one thing. My father was a man of his word. When he said he was going to be there for you, he showed up. My father was far from a perfect person, but he kept his promises. And it turns out when it comes to keeping promises, well, seems like a lot of people don't do that anymore. And so one day, my father, this sort of dweeby pharmacist guy, it's 2011, he's sitting at his home and he hears the phone ring. So he goes and he grabs it, he turns it over, and it's the hospital calling. Well, of course, this is where he works, right? So he's got to answer. He swipes, he answers. And on the other line is a doctor, a friend of his that works at the hospital. And in this phone conversation, my father is informed that he has been diagnosed with stage 4 small cell lung cancer. Now, my father was a go down swinging kind of man. He came to this country as an immigrant. And I say that only because sometimes it's not so easy making it on your own. Sometimes you got to develop some pretty tough skin to get by. And so with this attitude throughout his life, at this point of his diagnosis, my father elected for the most aggressive treatment, for radiation and chemotherapy. Now, a lot of people have obviously heard this phrase before, chemotherapy. But not many people know what it actually is. You see, chemotherapy, it is quite literally a poison. It was developed prior to World War II, and it is based on a primitive concept. You see, cancer, especially as a lung disease, cancer is so difficult to defeat that the thought was just to poison the body so deeply that the cancer simply cannot live in its conditions. And as extreme as that may sound, sometimes life doesn't give us choices. Sometimes this is the only chance a patient has. Now remember something for a second though. My father was a pharmacist in a hospital for 25 years. He knew more about the drugs he was taking than a lot of people ever will. And with that comes a distinct knowledge, a scientific understanding of the odds that are against you. And in the case of my father, those odds were terrible. But sometimes we got to go down swinging, right? And so my father, he took this treatment, and it actually started to work. This cancer that grew so close to my father's heart that it was surgically inoperable, couldn't be cut out. It began to shrink though through this treatment. So small that you couldn't see it on any of these medical scans. They kept doing it on my father over and over and over again, and even him, the most genuine of skeptics, I assure you, he deemed it some sort of miracle. That perhaps he was saved. Now, I know a lot of people in this time and era have been thinking about a diagnosis. We've been thinking about our chances. And I don't know if you've ever had someone recover from a disease, but it's good news. And I remember my father receiving this news. And I thought, we got to celebrate, right? I went to college. I know how to celebrate, right? So I go to my father. I used to call him old man. I said, Dad, this turnaround for your health, it is incredible, okay? We've got to celebrate this moment. This is incredible news. Okay, Dad, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Money is no object. Okay, let's hear it, Dad. Where do you want to go? What does he say? He says, I want Chinese food. Same damn Chinese restaurant all the time. It didn't matter what the occasion was. He was super boring like that. You know how dads are, right? They got their routine. They like what they like. So whatever. We go to this place called Sunflower that his buddy owns that we've been to like 7 trillion times. And And it was a good meal. A good day. The kind of day that obviously I think a lot about. And the kind of day I wish I had one more of. But as you've probably already noticed, I speak of my father in the past tense. The cancer would return to his lungs. It would spread into his liver, into his pancreas, and into his brain. On September 4th of 2012, it was a bright morning. In the house that I grew up in as a child, as a grown man, I would go to my father's bedside and I'd play some music for him that I thought he might like. I held his hand, and with the best ability that I had as his son, I desperately tried to comfort my father as he died. Now, you and I, we are only strangers. And I do not know if you've ever lost someone that you have loved. I can only say that I have. Okay, his name was Al Sheen. He had 2 sons. I'm one of them. He put a roof over my head. He paid for me to go to college. He never wore a shirt around in the house, which I thought was strange. I was named after him. In the course of all of our losses, we have so many questions. You know, like why him and why now? Why does it have to be me and my family? And in this struggle, we are afforded very few answers. In my struggle, I was asked by my family to give my father's eulogy, the final resting speech at his funeral, to speak to his greatest characteristic, his greatest quality as a man. And I kept coming back to this thought, the importance of a promise. You see, too often in this life, people say things like, I'll get to it, or tomorrow. Well, the last thing that my father taught me was that one day there will be no tomorrow. And the promises that we make and we keep, and those we choose to dishonor, that is what defines us and our character. It always has. Long before my father was ever born, and long after I go, it is a single measure of honor, one that we use so quickly to judge other people, right? How they treat their promises. Well, perhaps we should as quickly use this to judge ourselves. I would give my father's eulogy, and the title of this speech would be called Because I Said I Would. I would talk about the importance of a promise at his funeral, and for the very first time that day, I would hand out one of these. I called it a promise card. On the front, it says, Because I Said I Would. On the back, there is nothing else. It's very simple to use. What you do is you take a promise in your life. Maybe it's something small you said today. Maybe it's a commitment to the kids that you work with. Maybe it's a promise so deep that it defines part of the purpose you have for even being on this earth. You write that promise on this card. You go to the person you're making that commitment to. You tell them, I'm going to fulfill this promise. And when I do, I earn this card back. This card is a symbol of my honor, my respect. It is my property, and I'm coming back for it. You go, you fulfill your promise, you come back to that person, you earn your card back, and you keep it as a reminder that perhaps you are a person of your word. You know, maybe someone like Al Sheen was to his sons. And so his funeral ends, and I go home. And the next thing that I would do would set off a chain of events to the scope of which I may never understand. That's where this silly internet comes in. You see, I'd make this post, an offer. I said that I would mail, I said that I would physically mail. I said that I would mail 10 promise cards to anybody, anywhere in the world at no cost to anyone, which is the dumbest financial decision I have ever made in my entire life. First lesson today, don't offer free stuff, to strangers on the internet. Okay, that should go without saying. I'm not that bright. You know, this is a picture of the first 5 sets of cards I ever sent out. Now, 5 requests in a day is no big deal. You wake up early, go to sleep a little late, a few here and there, it's not a hassle. But that's 5 requests in a day. What if you were to receive, 50 requests in a day, or 500? Or one morning you wake up and that little red notification bubble on your phone, it says 15,000? What do you do then? Well, I would have to figure that out. And that is because since September 4th, 2012, the day that my father left, we have distributed over 9.81 million promise cards to over 153 countries around the world and by request only. 153 countries. You see, it turns out it doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, how much money you make, how old you are, or who you love. We all understand the importance of a promise. I would learn this lesson not just from my father, but actually from humanity itself. Because people started to write promises and post them to social media. And maybe that's a commitment to someone who's close to you, right? Like a family member. Like this young girl writes, I promise to make life worth living for my sister with Down syndrome every day of her life, and to take care of her when my parents are no longer able to. A promise can be in recognition of a simple fact. Like this young man in the Czech Republic. I mean, he knows, he is certain that somebody somewhere has got to need that half liter of blood more than he does. And so he commits to helping the sick or the injured. Or maybe a promise is just a random act of kindness. Like this 14-year-old girl in Brunswick, Ohio, writes, I will sit and make friends with the kids who sit alone at lunch. Because she knows that people love to talk, make small promises every day. But that thing that's small to you, that you may even forget about, to another person, that gesture could be the earth. And in other instances, I don't have to go into some kind of deep background story. You see the picture, you read the words, and you understand what a promise might mean to a family or to a country. But this card, it would be used in so many different ways that I could not fathom or forecast. In fact, entire schools, colleges, hospitals, prisons, charities started to not just make individual promises, but maybe even make the same promise together, to do what only can be done together. And so our work in charity and centers around that thought of keeping a promise when that's what the world needs. This woman, she owns a little bridal shop. And business hasn't been good because weddings have been canceled. But she knows that she has a skill. She can sew. So in March, that's what she started doing. 10 days in a row. She sewed 300 face masks across those 10 days. We have over 270 volunteers who've sewn over 14,000 face masks. And maybe now the promise we need is to wear them. Our organization has been doing charitable work, primarily actually in a place you're familiar with, in schools. We have high school chapters in Ohio, Texas, the country of Panama, and as they work through character education, character development, you've got to take those character lessons of self-control, of accountability, and you've got to put that into practice by making charitable promises. That's what they do. But we also work in prisons where character, how we make decisions is incredibly important. What promises we stick to is vital. This is a picture from Pendleton, Indiana. Minimum sentence, 12 years to life without parole. These individuals have committed horrible crimes, and while I work hard to believe in the thought of second chances, that's not where my comments lie at this moment. What I'm trying to say to you right now is that for many of these men, one day, they will get out. They're going to walk down the street next to me, you, and our kids, And we want them to be the strongest version of themselves when that happens. In this picture, our chapter leader at that prison sewing face masks for his community. From one click of a button, it has been a very strange journey for me to learn about what leadership means through commitment. And right off the bat, a lot of people just assume I must be like my father. I must know all of this sort of sage advice on what it takes to keep a promise. But you have to understand who I was before all this started. Before I ever clicked that button, before the Today Show, all that nonsense, I was just some dude. I was just some guy working at a software company, which is really, really stereotypical for an Asian guy. And yes, okay, I know karate, but that's not the point. The point is I loved working at this software company. And I'm going to be a little cocky for a second, and I apologize. But I was the youngest manager in the entire place. 1,400 employees. I was the youngest manager. You know, Fortune magazine, they've got this list, top 100 companies to work for in the United States. We were on it. I made a 6-figure income, 5-figure bonuses, 5-figure stock options, everything that my father came to this land for himself. His son had. But you read a bunch of messages from people who lost someone to a disease, people who are fighting poverty. You shake the hands of children at your school who are in foster care who have been abused. You do that, then you look me straight in the eye and tell me that this life is somehow just about money. Nah. Money's only means to an end. That end we must choose. And so I thought maybe I should quit my job, start a nonprofit, right? Terrible idea. I would learn the hardships of charity firsthand, but in the beginning, it didn't make any sense to quit. It didn't make any sense to quit my job because this is what was happening. I was making all this money from the software company, right? But then I was taking tens of thousands of dollars of my paychecks and I was buying stamps and envelopes and printing promise cards. The donations weren't coming in, but I had made a promise. I knew what these people were writing on this card, and so I just paid for everything with my own money. So it didn't make any sense to leave my job, but one day I'd be pushed over the edge to quit, not financially, but emotionally, because of a letter that was dropped to my desk at work, which is strange. This letter was anonymous. Didn't know who it came from, but it would convince me to leave my job, and I would like to read part of it to you right now. It was February of 2013. I'm sitting at my desk at work, and I read, "Hi, Alex. I've been keeping up with your blog. Because I said I would has really, really helped me through a rough patch. There have been lots of times where I didn't think life was worth living, and I almost took my life. Almost. I'm getting stronger every day, and a lot of that strength comes from a few promise cards I've written. I have lots of people who care about me. I'm a very, very lucky person. It took a lot for me to realize that I should be alive. I do have a purpose. I'm not sure if I would even be around if it wasn't for you and your organization. So thanks, Mr. Sheen. I know I'm supposed to write this on a card, but I want to promise you that I will not give up." Now, I'm not embarrassed at this moment, nor will I ever be, to say that I sat at my desk that day, I read this letter and cried, thinking about what my father might say about a promise like that, or if even he thought of promises like this. I stood up in this office in this sea of people, and I wondered, who is it? Is it a friend of mine who just didn't want me to know what they were going through, so they left their name off of this letter, or is this a complete stranger? I mean, 1,400 people, you can't know them all. More importantly, this letter gave me the courage to do what I knew already had to be done, and that was to leave my life of comfort, to go alone and help people in what little ways I know how. And so I asked for a meeting with my boss, just through email. She didn't know what this meeting was about, but she agreed to it. And I remember walking into her office with this letter in hand. She was sitting there at her desk, pretending to work or whatever bosses are doing all the time in there, So she's on Facebook, and I give her this letter, and I say, hey boss, if you could just read this, it would make it a lot easier for me to do what I got to do right now. And she says, sure, Alex, no problem. She unfolds this college-ruled piece of notebook paper, and she reads as much as I have literally read to you just right now. But then she stops. She just stops reading. About halfway through. She looks up at me. She says, Alex, this letter. Alex, this letter is from my daughter. This is about her, she says. This is her handwriting. And that envelope you're holding, those are the kind of envelopes on my kitchen counter, Alex. When did she give this to you? My boss says. You see, I didn't know this, but my boss's daughter had been suffering through depression. And with depression, I believe that time and support, reaching out for help, I believe there's a path to hope. That is what I believe. But at age 14, my boss's daughter did not yet share this thought. You see, she was overweight, and she'd go to school, and kids decided that they were going to pick on her for that. And so she'd come home with this feeling of rejection and sorrow, not knowing how to handle her emotions. At such a young age, she would cut herself. But you see, this family knew about promise cards long before the world. And sometimes with our bad habits, maybe it's not about promising to quit forever. Perhaps forever is too far to hold. So how about we just write, not today. Start a new card tomorrow. Write it again. See if we can get these things to stack up. My boss's daughter would end this habit of self-harm and write this letter. She would ask perhaps an older student to drive her to the place where I worked, where her parents worked. With this letter in hand, she would sneak into our office like some kind of middle school ninja. Imagine her in a ninja outfit doing a bunch of cartwheels past security. She'd find inter-office mail, which I don't even know where the hell that's at. And that letter would get to my desk, and that's part of the reason that I'm talking to you right now. I'm all in. And I'm here to ask you to be a part of something. I wish I could have asked you in person, but this will have to do. We are a social movement, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the betterment of humanity through promises made and kept. That's how I believe this world is made better. When each and every one of us, on our shoulders and on our backs, takes the burden of a promise to improve ourselves, our families, a community, a cause. It is the belief in the power of a single individual and the personal responsibility we should hold to shape this world into something better. The power of one. And all along the way, as I've read thousands of promise stories, I believe they boil down into 7 core elements that make up the very fiber of what commitment really means. Self-control, honesty, accountability, compassion, sacrifice, hope, contemplation. Isn't this part of what the world needs right now? A little bit of accountability? Maybe some self-control? COVID-19 and the coronavirus, the coronavirus has shown us the importance of individual responsibility more now than at least any point in my life. But promises are not easy to keep in such a moment. Crisis challenges us all in different ways. And so I want to share 3 tactics, 3 things on how to keep a promise that I believe are particularly relevant to this moment. And the first one is the courage of no. You know, it really is a myth to me in some ways That, to be a person of your word, well, you've got to make all these promises, right? It's a volume game, right? No, it's not, because if you just get into this mode of just saying yes to everything, people pleasing, committing yourself to all these different areas, your top priorities, what the world needs to see the most, those promises are neglected. When what we should really have is a courage of no, to say no to the obligations, whether social or otherwise, that beg us for our time, but quite frankly, do not deserve it. I know that is a little frank to say, but we only have so much time on this planet. And saying no to things is incredibly important to getting the most important things done. And so one thing I would share with you is to have a go-to sentence for saying no. My sentence is, I respect you too much to make a promise I can't keep. I'm sorry I can't come. As simple as that first phrase makes the discomfort of the moment a little easier to get through, because I know what to say. Instead of fumbling through the uncomfortable moment, I have a go-to sentence. Think about that. That could help you in achieving your goals to better this life. The next thing I would say in a crisis on how to keep a promise is 100% calendaring. What does that mean? That means calendaring every minute of your entire day. I'm talking about sleep. I'm talking about eating, getting ready. I'm literally saying that I calendar time to calendar. All right? And why? Why do I do this? Well, you have all these moments of stress. All those things that you said you were going to do. Oh, I've got to do that on Thursday and pick this person up and send that and blah, 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 blah. Right? But every time I get one of those moments of stress, I take that obligation and I put it on my calendar. And the next time I think about it, I'm like, no. I already have reserved time to worry about that. I already have worried about that. That should not take up my mental space. And then, bonus, if you come to a moment where someone says, hey, can you do that Thursday at 4 o'clock? You look at your calendar and you have these tasks already written out. You can say to somebody, no, I'm sorry, I already have a commitment, or that it's just not possible that day. Can it wait a week? 100% calendaring actually reduces stress, not increase it. As tedious as it may sound, I'm challenging you with 3 days, 100% calendaring. It helps with keeping promises. It helps reduce stress. And the third thing that I think helps in challenges, in moments of ambiguity, when we're struggling to make the right decision in a crisis, a code of honor. And that is best illustrated by, let's say, a fictitious scenario. So follow me for a moment. Imagine that you are walking in the woods. You're walking in the woods, and as you do, you hear this almost like buzzing sound. You're not quite sure what it is, so you walk over there and see this glowing green light. The curiosity is far too much, so you push the branches and leaves apart, and you see a large metal pod. There seems to be an engraving on this device, and so you wipe everything away, and what it says, the engraving says, people often see how the past might have been better. You might have acted differently, said something different, and subsequent events might have unfolded in a different way. Have you ever had one of these thoughts about what might have been that was especially vivid, compelling, or obvious to you, something you couldn't help but think about repeatedly? And as that courses through your mind, it is really, though, the next sentence that grabs you. This machine can take you back to that moment. Before you can even think, the pod, it opens up. You decide to get in. You strap in, you think to that moment you wish you could take back, that moment that you regret, and you push. Where does this pod take you? And what do you regret the most? Often we regret the moments where we didn't follow the character values we know we cherish the most. We end up making decisions almost not randomly, but I guess according to our five senses, how we feel in that moment. It's almost like a courtroom where there are three offenders and you say all the same crime, but the judge says 5-day sentence for you, 15-day sentence for you, 15 years for you. We don't really consistently make decisions when it comes to our values. Certainly not as well as we could. And I think that's because if you ask somebody off the street, 3 top values in your life that you make decisions by, go. People have to think. And what I'm asking you to do is determine what those are. Determine what those values are, memorize them, and when you come to a moment of ambiguity where you're not sure what to do, run it through the filter of those 3 to 5 values that you've memorized. Is this honest? Is this testing my self-control? Is this the most compassionate option? That is how we should make our decisions. And we should all be asking ourselves, are we being consistent? Are you consistent with your values? How can you do that if you don't have them memorized? That is especially important to think about in crisis, when time can be short and the stakes can be high. I hope that through our chapters in schools, prisons, our character development that reaches people through different mediums, I hope the promise cards, our mask sewing operation right now, and whatever promises we make, I hope it continues to spread across the world. It's an honor to have your time and your patience to share with you how this card was born in my life, what it means to me and what it means to others. Because a lot of times I don't get this kind of chance. Most of the time people hear about things like this on like the news or something. You know, the Today Show jams a camera in my face and they say, Alex, you got 30 seconds. Try to explain it all. When it comes across as in these news features is like, oh, this guy, he, I don't know, makes promises or something, and he wears the same shirt every day for some reason. You know, people just change the channel because they think it's about me. Well, if it was about me, I would take the $1 million that I make in a year just giving speeches, $1 million. And I would go home a wealthy man. But instead, 100% of that money goes to the charity. I make as much as a kindergarten teacher. Because I said I would is not about me. And I will go so far as to say that it isn't even about my own father. Now, that's not to say that I don't miss the old man, you know? The fortune I would give to you for just like 5 more minutes. But in everything I wish I could say to my father, I assure you this is not about me. This is not about him. This has always been. This forever will be. This is about you. The promises that you make. Because my dad, Al Sheen, he is gone forever. But you and I, we are still here. And we may not have all achieved the highest levels of education or come from great families or come from wealth. But you know what? Each and every one of you and me were born with the ability to make and keep a promise. And the position that you find yourself in right now, leading the next generation, showing them the world through education, showing them where their promises even belong. That's the role of an educator. And that's why I'm so proud to work with schools. But everything is easier said than done, right? Talk is cheap. Doubt is everywhere, especially right now. And maybe you don't think you can do it. That's the human condition. Doubt. But it makes me think of a quote that one of my former employees told me. Her name's Katie. She said, Alex, it's okay to think that you can't do it. It's okay to think that you can't do it, but that doesn't mean you're right. You know? Thank you so much.
Before you join your first session of the day, we have a few important conference updates. Be sure to check the conference schedule on the website for the most up-to-date version, as some events may have changed. Please note the following schedule changes. We'd also like to thank our amazing sponsors and exhibitors for making this virtual event possible. You can visit the Exhibitors tab to learn more about this year's featured companies. Virtual sponsor booths will be open for networking as well. Just view the schedule to see their times and sign up. That concludes this morning's general session. Remember to take the general session survey and enter the keyword PROMISE. Thank you for joining us, and once again, welcome to the Virtual Institute for CTE Educators.